Okay, here's a quick walkthrough on how to use GitHub Desktop to share projects between different computers in Unity for game design. This actually can be used for anything, sharing folders for any sort of projects. But we're just doing game design. So I'm running GitHub Desktop here. I've downloaded that. If you don't have it, it's installed in the lab machines, but if on your home machine, if you don't have it, just Google GitHub Desktop and download it for whatever machine you have. Similarly, it has to have Git. So if you run it and it doesn't have Git, you may have to download Git and search for that and install that for it. But in the computer labs, they're already installed. And a lot of machines that install it as part of this normal system. So when you first run it, you have you may not have a repository open, and you'll have options for adding a new repository doing some things. But often you'll have a repository already open. Like here, I'll have the current repository is this Monet one, and these are all a history of repositories I've opened recently on this machine. So I'm going to add a new game. So I've gone into Unity, I've created a new game, and I just want to save it now up to GitHub. So I've quit Unity and saved my game. And it's all located in a folder. So I'm going to add that local repository. So that's an already created folder. I'm just going to add it to GitHub. So I'm going to add local repository, and I'm going to go locate that spot. So here's the marble drop game I just did in class, 2D version of it. So I found that folder. I'm just gonna select that folder, and so it'll add that folder. Now it says this doesn't seem to have a Git repository set up there. Do you want to create a repository there? And that's what you want to do for that, is create a repository. So this is the name. You can give it a description if you want. This is local path. That's fine. For Git ignore, these are the files that Git will ignore, and you want to set this, if you scroll down here and set this to Unity, because there's a bunch of files in Unity that you don't need to upload to Git, that Unity can recreate meta files and stuff like that. So make sure you switch that to Unity. For license, you might want to just say, if you want to share this or whatever, you can share this as a GNU certain license or whatever, but you can leave that blank if you want. But the main thing is set the Git ignore here to Unity. Now, if this is a repository, if you're one of the reasons you're putting things on GitHub is so maybe recruiters or others might see it. You might want to initialize a README file that you can edit. That'll show up on the website as the kind of front page of this repository, but you don't have to do that either. So I'm going to hit create repository, and it'll create that. Now, some of the Git files, Git is set up for text files, but often game files are large, and so there's this large file system in Git, and so you want to make sure you initialize that for large images and sounds and stuff like that. That'll set that up. Okay, so now our current repository is this here, and it's our new repository, and so we want to do our initial commit. Shell game files. So again, I want to type in a summary, actually, not a description. I could add a description too, and I wanted to but this is still grayed out because I haven't published this repository. So I want to make sure I publish this repository first here. So I'm going to do that. So again, this is what it's going to be published. I'm going to actually add, have many repositories, so I like to put the name, the class in that in GitHub. And again, you can have different organizations if you want, but by default it'll publish under your login, and that's probably what you want. So just give it some name, or just leave the name is and then publish that. Now what this will do is create a folder on GitHub. So if I go up, if I log into GitHub here and I refresh this, I'm looking at my repositories, and it created this new repository here. So again, under my icon here, I can go to your repositories, and that'll display this information and the repositories. Now inside this, here are the initial assets and packages, and everything's here for this. Now, as you make changes to this, you may have to push those changes up to GitHub. So I've actually run Unity and then updated this project. So there are 12 files that have been changed here, including some assets and some scenes, and then a bunch of log. The log files actually aren't important that much, but again, the assets files and the scenes have been changed. So I'm going to update this and give it a new summary. I changed colors. Again, you don't have to. You can just type, say, update or whatever you want. You don't need to use that useful of a update of a description here if you don't want. And now I'm going to commit this these changes. Now generally when you commit, it just saves it locally, so these are just changed locally. Now if you want to push these up to GitHub, they would be there. So again, if I were to look in GitHub here, another changes would be here, but when I hit push, now it'll update the versions here. And so now if I hit refresh here, this information has changed, and you can see things that are changed have a new description, a new summary here on them. And I can also look at here and I can see my commits, and here's my 2 commits and what's changed at each one. Now, from GitHub, you can download this. You can just go, if you're in your folder, you can go to code and download this as a zip file here. But you can also open it up in GitHub, or if you're in GitHub, again, let's say you're on a different machine and you want to bring in that project. You can clone a repository here, and then you can just go to GitHub and it'll list all your repositories here. Or if you have the URL that's here, you can click on URL and just clone that one repository based on a URL, paste a URL here, and then say where you want it cloned for this. Usually it doesn't take too long, but because of the class I teach, I have a ton of repositories out there, unfortunately, in GitHub, so it takes forever for this to refresh for me here. Also, every student repository is shared with me, so there are thousands. Well, maybe not. There's a lot here, but generally this is much faster when do this. And then you can clone this down and save this to a folder here. And again, one other thing to watch is that if you already have it cloned here, but it has been changed, watch for the new changes, and you may have to hit pull to pull down the newest changes here to fetch the original one. And right now there hasn't been any changes, so it's not fetching anything. But this will just keep that one folder updated. I suggest you have a separate repository for each of your folders, and then again you can go here and you can switch between your different folders, your different projects easily within GitHub Desktop. Okay, hope this helps.